All right, welcome back everyone to this recently started Mockvita solution series. This is basically the third video of this series, and in this video we are going to solve lazy student. Now, this question is kind of based on maths. Okay, now many of the students were not able to solve this because they were not able to find the probability, and those who were able to find out the probability they kept on running to time limit exceeded, and some were not able to understand what the question meant. Some were confused by this fact of multiplicative inverse. What does it mean? Okay, so now we'll be solving this question sequentially as usual. Okay, now let's read out the problem. This is a test of algorithms. Teacher provides a question bank consisting of n questions and guarantees all the questions in the test that will be from the question bank. Due to lack of time and his laziness, Kodu could only practice m questions. There are t questions in the question paper selected randomly. Passing criteria is solving at least one of the t problems. Kodu can't solve the question he didn't practice. What is the probability that Kodu will pass this test? All right. Let's not read the next part of the problem. First, let's solve this. Okay. Let's just find the probability. That will be better for us. Okay. Now, I'll just write the three values that will be given to us: n, t, and m. N, basically, they are the total number of questions that the teacher gave them to practice. Okay. T is basically the number of questions that were asked in the exam. And m, it was the these are the number of questions that Kodu actually practiced. So let's just say Kodu practiced questions. Great. Now, first of all, let's understand the total number of ways of selecting t questions out of n questions. Now, this is basically we have to find the combination. We must know how many what are the combinations in which the question can occur in exams. So we need to find out basically what are the ways in which that teacher can select t question out of those n questions. Okay, so we know that that will be nct. Okay, these are the number of ways out of which teacher can select those questions. All right, moving on. Now let us look at the possibility that Kodu did not pass the test. Okay, that will happen only when none of the t questions he has practiced come in that exam. Okay, and he has practiced m question out of n. So what he has not practiced is the remaining of n minus m question. So the question that he have not practiced are n minus m. Okay. For him to fail, all the question must be from this set. So the number of ways of selecting t questions out of n minus m questions will be n minus mct. Okay. So Kodu has not practiced these questions, and in order for him to fail, the questions must come from this bracket of questions. All right. So what are the total number of ways if I have to choose n minus m out of t? That will be n minus m. Let's just put it in braces c and t. Okay. Now, so the probability that he will not pass the test will be what? Okay. So the probability that he will not pass the test, what will that be? It will be simply n minus m ct divided by nct. Okay, I hope you're getting it. This is very simple. We find out the total number of ways the question, teacher can select t questions, and then we have find out the total number of ways in which he can actually fail that test. So he has not practiced n minus m question, and if teacher selects those t question from n minus m, he will fail. And if we have to find the probability that he will fail, then we have divided the number of questions he has not practiced by the total number of question while finding that combination. Now this is the probability that Kodu will fail, but we need to find how what is the probability that Kodu will pass. Okay, and in any if you ever encounter any question in which you have to find either this or that, the probability will most likely be if in this we know that if if he solves at least one out of the t questions, he will pass. So if he just solves one question, so the answer will be 1 minus n minus, I'll just copy paste this. So this will be the complete probability. If he just solves one question, he'll pass the test. This is the probability that Kodu will fail, and if he has to solve only one question, 1 minus the probability of Kodu will fail, that is our answer. Okay, so let's just look at example to know how to do this. The example that we have been given with is 4 to 1. Okay, where n equals to 4, t equals to 2, and m equals to 1. Let's put the values. Okay, 1 minus n minus m, that will be 4 minus 1, 3, 3c2 divided by 4c 2. Okay, now if we solve this, we'll find out that 3c2 divided by 4c2, it will be 1 minus 1 divided by 2, because 3c2 is 3, 4c2 is 6, and if I have to find the co-prime, their GCD is 3, and if I divide them with it, I'll get 1 by 2. So 1 minus 1 by 2 is my answer, that will be 1 by 2. And if I correct, yeah, the probability is half. All right, so we have solved this question. But even though students were able to solve this part, where they went, they basically find it, the only way to find n minus mct is, you know they thought that they have to calculate n minus m factorial, and after that they have to divide it with n minus m minus t factorial multiplied by n minus m minus t. But they did not look at the constraints. The constraint that have been given to us is that t, it's n is equal to 1000, so you have to calculate the value of 1000 factorial. You might have to calculate this value, and t is the number of test cases. So if there are 10,000 test cases and you have to find 1000 factorial every one time, it is going to be a lot of trouble. Plus there's also this size constraint, but you can actually solve it using this modulo. But what is a better way of finding out factorials? It's simple. You can use Pascal's triangle. Triangle, it's formed in such a way that all it's through a column. Suppose you want to find out NCT, you can find out NCT by just looking at the, let's say that the name of that, the triangle in which we have stored in a 2D matrix, it's Pascal's. So if you want to find out NCT, you can simply look it up to in nth row and tth column, and this will give you NCT. Okay, so now firstly I'll just calculate a Pascal's triangle. I'm not going to go into depth because that will take up a lot of time in the video. But if you want me to make a separate tutorial on Pascal's triangle, please mention that in the comment section. Okay, now let's move on. Firstly, I'll just create a 2D matrix in which I'll be storing all those values for Pascal for I in range. I'll be calculating all the values till 1000, and I'll only calculate them once. After that I'll start taking my test cases, but this way I have to calculate those values only once. And now I know that if the constraints lie from 0 to 1000, then the value that I have to find will only be from 0 to 1000. So if I calculate all of them, I can get my answers in only a bigger one time. All right, so let's start calculating it. For I in range, since I'm calculating till 1000, I'll just say 1000 plus 1. And after that, for j in range, the rows will be 1000 and columns will be 1000 also. All right, with this I have calculated, I basically initialized my Pascal's triangle. The first value will always be 1, we know that. This is very easy how to calculate this. I'll just fast forward it. All right, now I have created my Pascal's triangle, and just so you know, this is the main line of Pascal's triangle, and I have divided it by mod, and by mod I mean I haven't initialized it till now. By mod I mean 10 to the power 9 plus 7. Why? Because if I have to calculate a very large value like 1000 C, let's just say 10, then I have to store 1000 factorial in some variable, and it is going to be very large. So I just calculate my mod. I just calculate my mod with 10 to the power 9 plus 7, and since we have already been provided with the option that our answer is supposed to be under modulo, so why not use it beforehand? All right. So I have now created my Pascal's triangle. Now let's move on to the next step. Don't worry, we'll be coming back to that multiplicative inverse part, but we are going to first find the probability completely that we already did manually, that is 1 by 2. Okay, so now let's solve it. Once we have find the Pascal's triangle, I'll just take my input t equals to input. I'll typecast it into int. This way it will become very easy for me. While t and I will already you know decrease it by 1. Great. Now I'm done with the test cases. Now let's just take all the inputs will be, I'm storing them in a form of list, and map I'll be mapping them into int, because by default when you take an input it's in string format, and I have to do this manually. I have to convert it into int, but with the help of map function I can uh, input any value that I input will automatically be converted into int. All right, so I'll take the input and then I'll split it because it will be in the form of a list. All right, and since I have all these value, n will be equal to the inputs of 0. Similarly, the next value is t, that will be equal to inputs of 1. The next value will be m, that will be equal to inputs of 2. So now I have find my ntm. And all right, the next thing that I have to find is my you know my what was that, nct and n minus mct. All right, first, how to calculate those. First I have to calculate the numerator. The value of numerator will be, as I said before, I have already calculated that Pascal's matrix. All right, the first thing I have to find is n minus m ct. So I'll just pass in my Pascals n minus m as row and t as column. Great. And as for the denominator, I have to calculate the Pascal's triangle with NCT. Okay, but I forgot some boundary cases that we had here. You know, if the value of the value of m is 0, which means that Kodu has not practiced any question, then he is, bound to be failed. Why? Because he has not practiced any question. So why not, let's just print it here. If he has not solved any question, then he will be failed. I can't use break because uh, we have more test cases after that. And the next boundary condition is if Kodu has practiced more question than actually came in exam. Okay, so the example that we looked on was 4, 2, and 1. Here, Kodu has practiced how many questions? Only one questions. But what if he had actually practiced three questions or two questions? Two questions will be do? No, two questions won't do, but three questions, because we need to have at least one. All right. So if he has practiced three question and in exams only two question came, so Kodu if the worst possibility in this case will be Kodu might know one question, but and Kodu might not know one question. Why? Because all right, let's just look at this. Question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. Kodu has practiced three question, let's say question 1 to 3, and in exams two question came. So obviously question 4 he has not practiced, but he has practiced all three of these questions, and if any one of them came, he'll pass because Kodu only needs to solve one. So the condition that we have here is if you know if the question that he has practiced, if n minus m is less than t, which means Kodu has practiced more questions than actually came in the exam, so the probability of him passing will be 1. And no matter what you do, if you want to create that calculator multiplicative inverse or anything, it will always be 1. And the same goes on with 0. The only changes will come when the value in between 0 to 1. Okay, great. So now we are done with the first part. Now we have successfully founded this find the probability part. Great. Now let's move on to the second part. We have to make them co-prime. How are we going to make them co-prime? uh, I don't know. Wait a second. I am forgetting one thing. Yeah, the probability of Kodu passing was this, na, n minus m ct divided by n ct. Since we have stored n minus m ct into num and n ct into den, I have to solve it, and it will become den minus num divided by den, and this will be my p and this will be my q. Okay, so the value of p will be equal to den minus num, and the value of my q will be equal to den. All right, because we have to find the probability that Kodu will actually pass the exam. Great. Now I have to find that how to make them co-prime. So if you want to make any number co-prime, I'll make p co-prime itself. So for that, all right, I'll just take two another variables, co p, very weird, and that will be you can divide any number. You have to divide, if you want to make any two numbers co-prime, you have to divide them with the GCD of p and q. I'll give an example. Suppose the in this example also, but we had 3 and 6, and if you want to make them co-prime, how to divide them? We have to find the GCD. What is the GCD? The GCD of 3 and 6 was 3. Okay, so if we divide them with 3, we'll get 1 by 2. Okay, suppose we have another value 10 10 divided by 20 or 30, and if you want to find out their GCD, it will also be 10. So if we divide them by their GCD, which is 10, we'll get the value, sorry, 1 divided by 3. So in order to make any number co-prime, you have to divide by GCD, because GCD itself is the greatest common divisor of those two numbers. And if you divide them with the greatest number themselves, so they will be obviously become co-prime, because now they can't be divided with anything that they have common anymore. Okay, now we have finded them co-prime. Now what we have to do, the next part of the question was, once you have find the probability where p and q are co-prime, done, print mean to. Okay, now we have to find that multiplicative inverse of q. How to find multiplicative inverse? Okay, all right, what I'm doing, multiplicative inverse, and I have to find multiplicative inverse of what, p or q, of q. All right, so let me tell you first what is the meaning of multiplicative inverse. All right, so by multiplicative inverse, I simply want to say that since here I have to find the multiplicative inverse of q, it means that q into q to the power minus 1. How should I write it? I can write it with q to the power minus 1. Please try to understand. It should be equal to 1 mod, and what, all right, 1 mod this value. This is the value. All right. We already have q. Now we want to find q inverse such that if we multiply both of them, we'll get a value 1 mod, uh, value such that it should be equal to 1, and if it's very large, so if we can take them mod. All right, so this is the meaning of finding multiplication multiplicative inverse. Now we don't need to go into depths how to create the formula, because we are already provided. We'll use Fermat's little theorem. What it states is little theorem. Okay, what it states is that multiplicative inverse, how to find that. So multiplicative inverse is going to be equal to, I'll what was the type with which we were written? If A into B is equal to 1 mod C. So here we have 1, we have A, we have C. We only need to find this B. All right. So how to do that? Let's just store it in this multiplicative inverse of Q. Okay. So here B will be replaced by multiplicative inverse of Q. A is already equal to Q. C is equal to 10 to the power 9 plus 7. Okay. So now according to this formula, it is going to be equal to Q into the this value 10 into 10 to the power 9 plus 7 minus 2 and plus mod. Okay, so multiplicative inverse of Q will be equal to in simple terms, if I have to say that, it will be equal to Q to the power of this this value. I'll just say Q to the power of this value minus 2 plus, sorry, I'm saying plus, again taking mod of this value with this thing. Okay, I know it might be getting a little confused, but that is the formula. If I have to write it in simple form, then this inverse of something, inverse of this Q, it is going to be equal to power Q to that power with which you have to find mod minus 2 modulus that mod value. Okay, now I'll try to find my answer, which is very simple. I'll use that inbuilt function power, and I'll pass three variables, sorry, three parameters, which will be Q and mod minus 2, because mod here already means 10 to the power 9 plus 7, and I'll pass third parameter mod. You might be wondering what third parameter means. It means that I'll be finding Q to the power of mod minus 2 while uh, keep on finding that modulus with this value mod. All right, so with this we have find out the multiplicative inverse of Q. Great. Now what we have to do, what was the final step of our question? It was P into multiplicative inverse of Q modulo this. Fine, that is the answer. Great. Answer will be equal to P into multiplicative inverse of Q. Okay, and after that we just have to take mod. Okay, so this is the answer. I hope everything is done. We have to calculate it mod, we have to calculate, we have calculated the Pascal's triangle, we have taken the input, everything is done. We have calculated the co-prime, but yet I'm storing this in COP, COQ. I'll just take it in CO, and here also COP, and alright, everything is clear. Great. Now let's try to run this code. Am I getting any errors? Yes, I'm getting print 0, invalid syntax. Yeah, I do this. I'll try to run again. Successfully, no errors. Right. We have one test case, the value of 4, 2 and 1. Okay, COP why GCD is no function? Because I have not imported maths. GCD is in inbuilt function in Python. If you want, you can use C++ Java. In C++, I believe the function is hyphen GCD. I'll just import math, and I believe now I'm done. I'll try to run this code. Okay, great. So we have one test case, 4, 2 and 1 value, 500004, and I believe that is the correct answer. 500, yeah, that is the correct answer. But in some cases this might not run successfully. Why? Because the value of P1 into multiplicative inverse might become very large. So what you can do is you can simply do this P1 mod into multiplicative inverse of mod, and I assure you that the value won't change, your answer will still be same. Why? Because that is the property of mod itself. See, my answer is still the same, 500004. And this was the solution of lazy students. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.